What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. You join me in the F-5 at Nellis Air Force Base. I'm just getting her prepared for some dissimilar air combat training against an F-18 jet. Now, just setting the TACAN off lead. It's going to be 83 X-ray for me. It's going to be 20 X-ray for him, so we can look at the distance from each other. Raising the nose gear strut for better takeoff performance, and we are about to start taxiing out. Two's ready.
One, copy, Reptile, taxi.
So a little bit about the mission today. We are playing out some dissimilar air combat training. We are the Reptile flight, and you see Reptile 1 taxiing out there in the F-18. That role is played by my buddy Spartan Pilot. I'm in the F-5, just doing a quick controls check here, making sure everything is okay. And the mission for today, it's going to be takeoff from a 03 left on the flex departure, which we're going to be doing here very shortly. After that, we are going to fly northbound via the Sally corridor out towards the training area, just north of the so-called container, which is Area 51, which normally is a total no-fly zone. Obviously, if you have any sort of emergencies, then I'd imagine they'll let you go there, but otherwise we need to stay clear of the container. We are going to be fighting over the Rachel farms, which are just to the north, like I say, and it's going to be 20,000 feet for transit today, flight level 200 on the standard QNH, and then after that we are going to do a couple of checks, the bubble check, 1,000-foot check, just to make sure we know what we look like at 1,000 feet from each other, because that is a bubble we're not supposed to burst. And then after that we will continue the training from 18,000 feet. It will be a defensive set for Reptile 1 in the F-18, so I'm going to be chasing him down in the F-5. We'll show you how to set all that up. And his job is going to try and evade me once I call Fox 2 on him, which is at the point that we pretend that he suddenly realized where I am. And that's going to be his job, to try and evade and eventually turn that into an offensive position from his side. My job is going to try and keep after him, make sure that we stay offensive for as long as possible. So this is kind of a training sortie that they would quite often play out with dissimilar aircraft. That's what the F-5 is used for. You saw some Drake and MiG-21s there on the right hand side there as well. They are used for adversary air. So today it's just going to be the two of us, a quick training fight, and hopefully, you know, it goes according to plan. So here we are, we're just taxiing onto the runway. Obviously real life we'd be doing, asking for ATC clearances.
Reptile flights, clear for takeoff, one's rolling.
And Reptile 1 is doing a max dry, so no afterburner takeoff, and we're going to follow 10 seconds behind in max burner, catch up to him. A little bit of a crosswind from the right today, so a little bit of right aileron, a bit of left rudder, a bit of cross control there, and smooth rotation. So here we climb out to 3,000 feet at or below the beam, the NASCAR racetrack on the left hand side. That's the flex departure. Reptile 1 is worrying about all the radials and everything that we need to fly this accurately. My job is simply follow him, stay visual, call saddled, and essentially join up, and we go from there. Two saddled.
One. Reptile set 350.
So accelerating to 350 knots here. At this point we've turned left, 320 heading. We have to be 4,000 feet at or below beam 4 miles from the Lima Sierra Victor TACAN. 2, request close formation.
Reptile echelon right, go.
2. So by default, you'd be fighting wing, which is where I was, but I've asked for close formation just for transit. And at this point, we're climbing out towards the Sally corridor. We've got Vegas on the left-hand side. So just to the north is where the Sally corridor starts. From there, we'll head northbound towards the trading area, towards Baby Gap, left turn inbound towards the farms of Rachel, which you'll see. And that will be our training area.
Left.
And I must admit that even after the Syria map and all the other maps that we've had, Nevada just looks absolutely incredible. I've been fortunate enough to do some flying around Nevada in real life, obviously not on the NTTR because I'm not a military pilot, but around the Grand Canyon and just seeing like Death Valley and everything. It just, from high level, the NTTR DCS, it just looks sensational. Now granted, it's not quite as good at low level, there's just not enough resolution, so I wish there was, because that'd be amazing for low level flying, but we have to make do. It's still an incredible map, and there's Vegas on the left hand side there. We're just flying out towards a waypoint there, which is a golf course, and then turn right.
Beautiful light on the mountains.
Yeah, looks awesome. Alright, so skipping forward a little bit, here we are in formation. We're just approached the end of the Sally corridor. We're turning left, which is westbound in towards the training area.
Reptile fence.
So running the fence-in checks here is not much to do in the F-5 at all, actually. Just changing the gun sight there. Reptile 2, fenced.
One fence, base from combat, 7,000 to 902, acknowledge.
Base from combat, 7,000 to 902, copy, Reptile 2.
Reptile fighting wing, go.
2. So fighting wing, you just gotta drop back a little bit so you have more freedom of maneuver, and basically allows you to maintain visual with lead no matter what he's doing. If he needs to make an abrupt maneuver, you can do that. No problem, you've got no collision problems there at all, so that is why jets would normally be fighting wing for any sort of tactical war stuff. So here we are, we're just making an approach in towards Rachel Farms, which is north of Groom Lake, which is area 51.
Reptile reference 230, line rest on the right, go.
2. And you could see just before I made the break there, just on the left hand side, you saw the big sort of circular, you can see them on the left there now, the big circular farms, the fields, kind of like the ones that sort of aliens through. Those are the Rachel farms, and they are just north of Area 51.
Reference 240.
2. So reference 240, that means we're in formation and we're 240.
2 descend, Angels 19, 2 remain 20, next event bubble check.
2 descending 19. Alright, so here we are going to be doing a bubble check. So we've essentially created about 1 to 1.5 mile separation between each other. We're on the same heading, so we're line abreast. I'm descending 1,000 feet below so that we can then do what's called a shackle. 2 is Angels 19.
1. Reptile, call ready for bubble check. 1 ready.
2 ready.
Reptile for bubble check. Shackle.
So this is basically turning in towards each other at 45 degrees now. Lead will go inverted as it passes over the top, which is there. And that's to give me a reference, just to give me an idea of what it's like when another aircraft is 1,000 feet around me.
Reference 240. Next event will be a defensive set. Call ready.
2 is ready.
Copy, and descend Angels 18. Hook left.
2. So for training fight, you want to maintain at least 1,000 feet separation between an aircraft for safety, which is why you do the bubble check, just to give yourself sort of a reference point so you understand, depending on the type of aircraft that you are fighting, that is the sort of distance that he shouldn't be any closer to you. So we're just hooking to the left to stay within the vicinity of the farms, which are just basically underneath. 2, just confirm heading.
Reference 070.
2.
Reference 060.
2. And we're looking for about 1.5 mile separation, so just basically fixing the geometry between the two aircraft to be perfectly in line abreast at 1.5 miles if we can. There is where we set up the defensive fight, which is basically I'm going to be playing the bandit chasing lead.
Right on, next event, defensive set, call ready, 1 ready.
2 is ready.
Reptile set 400.
So accelerating to 400 knots now. Maintaining a line abreast. Next lead will make a turn to the left, I'll make a turn to the left, about 60 degrees.
Reptile check, 60 left.
And we are basically setting ourselves up, so that's what I'm going into burning here, accelerating so that we are now essentially sort of like chasing him down. He's kind of making a right turn, and we're pretending that he doesn't know where I am at this point. So he just kind of like not sure, making a sort of gentle turn. I'm coming in here, cutting in essentially, and I'm about to call Fox 2, that's a missile shot at 1 mile away. Fox 2. So at this point, Reptile 1 knows where I am. He's going to start tightening his turn, looking at me. My job is to not cause a flight path overshoot to the point of where he can reverse the turn, which he hasn't. And he has gone down out of plane here now in a 2 circles fight. We're essentially going to be rating at this point. I'm looking for about 400 knots to try and increase my chances of gaining on lead, but that's not going to happen because clean F-5 versus F-18 with 2 bags, it's just the F-18 still has an advantage at this point. An F-18 with 3 bags versus a clean F-5, that's kind of a fair fight, but unfortunately here you don't have the crazy AOA capabilities that the Hornet has at low speed, and neither do you have the rate capabilities at, well, close to rate speed here, which is about 400 knots, close to 400 knots. So at this point, I'm doing a pretty good job. So 380 knots. Looking at the deck of 7,000 feet, which is what we said on the QNH 2 Niner 2. And currently, it's looking like I think I've lost a little bit of airspeed there. We're approaching the deck here, so just be very, very, very careful. We're strayed just a little bit away from the Rachel Farms, which is our reference for the fight, but that's fine. And yeah, it's looking kind of neutral-ish at this point, but eventually the F-18 should gain the upper hand, really, and swing around behind. To knock it off, just got a problem. So at this point I've realized that I have a fire warning switch illuminate, so I'm looking for the master caution and any other cautions to let up there on the right hand side. So I'll bring the thrust back just to see if that does anything, and it looks to mayday, 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 engine fire, stand by.
Copy, fly south for now.
Just by chance I was already flowing south, so that's quite helpful because Groom Lake is in that direction, and at this point I shut down the engine and try and secure it, basically ideally cut the fuel flow to it, because that is a big part of causing the fire potentially. Okay, just be advised, 2's got left engine fire, left engine's shut down. request diversion to Groom Lake.
Copy that. You got Groom Lake is heading bra 190, 25 miles.
2. So there was a fuel cutoff valve there that I've just, the switch for which I've just flipped, so that should isolate that engine. And
you'll be looking for their southeasterly runway. It's going to be runway 14 left.
Okay, that is copied. Now lead has told me 190. For whatever reason, I've actually turned left. And right. I'm gonna stay with you on box, on my only box. If you could relay with tactical and tower, I'll be straight in.
Copy that. Green Lake are aware. If you come right to 200, I'll vector you for the straight in from 14 left.
2. 2's now got a bigger problem. We've got a right engine fire.
1 copies. Just keep pushing south. We'll try and get you to Green Lake.
2. So the right engine is also on fire now, apparently. And at this point, you know, I'm not shutting it down entirely because it is still producing power for thrust. So it can potentially get me to Groom Lake. So just keep it running for now.
Yeah, confirmed. You've got. You can see the fire coming out the back now.
Okay, and just confirm distance remaining, or miles to run.
You got 13 miles direct, about 15 track miles.
2.
I'll let you know when to come left.
So the reason that I asked for that is so that I can shut down that engine at a point where I know I'm within gliding distance. And just confirm you see fire at the back.
Hey, firm, come left now, 180.
Okay, left 180. 2's shutting down the last engine, the remaining engine. So I've asked him for miles to run there, and that is so that I knew when I could shut that engine down and essentially be within gliding distance. He told me 13 miles. Now I can do a quick altitude check. If I fly my 737 for work, then I know that feet times 3 will equals the distance that I need. So if we assume that Groom Lake is...
Airfield to 12 o'clock.
Yeah, airfield's in sight. If we assume that Groom Lake is at 4,000 feet...
Range 10 miles.
2. Tell them to roll the trucks.
Copy, if you got services standing by, I'll shadow you in.
So that would have given us 12,000 feet at the point where we made the check, which times 3 in the Boeing 737 would mean that we can make about 26 miles. Now, he told me 13, about half of that. In the F-5, that's fairly appropriate because this thing glides like an absolute brick. Another thing to consider, it's got no ram air turbine in case of total engine failure, which means we are going to be flaps up landing. It's pretty quick.
Runway your left, 10 o'clock.
Yep, 2's visual, just need to kill some height.
Copy.
So at this point you want to be too high rather than too low. And like I say, the F-5 glides like an absolute brick, so this cloud is not helping me here, it's just obscuring the runway. But I know where it is roughly now, so...
And confirm you're 14 left, clear to land.
2. Gear down. Just confirm gear is coming down.
Hey, thing, got good gear. 3 green.
So at this point we are pretty quick, and I elect to do a side slip. And this is exactly the sort of situation where a side slip is extremely helpful because you can control your rate of descent or your speed depending on what you want, and get yourself to the runway. Now in this particular case, you could argue that I was actually a little bit too quick, but it is a long runway, so it should work out fairly nicely. And there's the fire trucks ready on the right hand side. Now at this point I pulled the chute handle twice, I believe, which means actually the chute just came out and dropped off straight away, which isn't very helpful. But in real life as well I would have put the hook down, but unfortunately DCS doesn't do anything because they don't put wires across the runways. Now, in real life, Groom Lake is what's called the container, which is a total no-fly zone, but I'd imagine that whenever an aircraft is experiencing an emergency, they'll make an exception and allow you to land.
Nice work, looks like you got down there safely.
Yeah, thanks for the help. Any fire coming out the back, do you see?
Looks like it's out now. I can't see anything else.
Okay, so obviously in real life now I'd be talking to emergency services on their frequency, and if there's a fire, probably jump out and run away. But nonetheless, we have made it here, everything is all good, so hope you've enjoyed this video. Please, as always, smash the living daylight out of the like button, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next one. Adios!